Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Mark Warburton says he's bemused at rumours linking him with a job at Wigan. This on the back of Rangers drawing with St Johnstone last night. Celtic are 7 points clear at the top of the Premiership after a 4-0 win up at Dingwall against Ross County. And of course next up for them is at Pittodrie for a showdown with Aberdeen. We'll discuss Paul Hartley under pressure at Dundee and SFA Chief Executive Stuart Regan talking about a possible cross-border league. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. I'm delighted to say we have Queen of the South striker Stephen Dobbie with us here in the programme, in the studio, ready to talk about the Queens and their start to the season. And of course, we'll talk about some of the highs in Stephen's career as well. So delighted to have you with us, Stephen. First of all, let's cut to the chase of last night's games, Ruffy. The shock for me was certainly at Ibrox. Rangers won, St Johnstone won.
Yeah, I think everybody thought Rangers would bounce back, but I think we all know that St Johnstone are a team that sometimes when you come up against them make it very, very hard for you, and getting that fantastic first goal just gave them the wee start that they needed. Rangers did have chances, but you would expect Rangers to win their home games, and they've had too many draws now at homes rather than wins. Yep,
I'll get Stephen's thoughts on it in a moment, but of course statistics can kill everyone, not only players but teams, and one from this morning, it's Rangers' worst league start in 23 years, but Mark Warburton has dealt quickly with that stat at the press conference today.
I find this a bit bemusing, if I'm honest with you. Had we won the game last night, where would Rangers be this morning points-wise? So I read about the shocking start that Rangers have had and the dire and the pressure builds and everything else. Had we won the game last night, I believe we would have been. So I rest my case. You know, we're gelling in players. We're still early in the season. We're taking shape. We've had a horror start, and we're still apparently level on points with the guys who are 2 and 3, etc. So listen, all we can do now is focus on Rangers, focus on winning games of football, focus on delivering the type of performances that we want to deliver to get the results we want to achieve. Simple as that.
Stephen, you started out at Rangers. You know exactly the way the whole thing operates in the west of Scotland. The pressure on Rangers to try and get wins.
Yeah, I think obviously they've had a hard time. They're coming back up. I think if anybody thought it was any other team coming from the Championship to the Premier League, they wouldn't be expecting to be second or challenging. I think, but just because it's Rangers, everybody thinks it's so bad because they're drawing at home at St Johnstone. But these teams are well organised, and St Johnstone always do good at Ibrox, so I think there is a wee bit more pressure on them, and the media, they do give Rangers a bit of more than they would do anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that stat, Ruffy. Mark Warburton in the press conference went on to say it's a results-driven business, but you need to look at the work being done away from the results. There's so much more to the project. I don't think that matters. It doesn't matter what goes on behind the scenes. I mean, as countless managers at Celtic found out in the 9-in-a-row era for Rangers, you know, if you don't get the results, you get sacked.
Yeah, and they'll be hoping that the owners and the supporters buy into his thought there. And I've always said it's, excuse me, quite interesting, you know, what goes on behind the scenes. And if he's proven that he is doing well behind the scenes, it'll help. But continue, you know, not picking up points. I mean, you could say if Aberdeen and Hearts had won, they would be up second as well. You know, it's just a line, you know, that suits him for the result last night. But no, they need to start winning. You know, obviously the defeat against Celtic, and then obviously we've got Kilmarnock at the weekend who're coming off a good result. So supporters like Rangers and Celtic demand that you win most of your games, and if you don't win them, then that's when the pressure mounts.
Yeah, I'm bemused by it. If he's bemused by the Wigan connection, I'm bemused by it as well, Ruffy. You know, he's apparently third favourite for this job. He's still to do something in the top league yet, and we haven't seen the evidence.
Yeah, I'd be surprised that if he left Rangers. I think he's got a lot to do there, you know, and I think it's a massive club. You would want to be seen to be the manager who came in there and turned everything round and at least got them into Europe this this year, that would be good for his CV. But no, I don't think he'll be going anywhere.
Okay, here's a look at the results from last night. There were a good few games on, most notably the Hamilton-Aberdeen was 1-0 from the previous night. Dundee 0, Partick Thistle 2, Kilmarnock 2, Hearts 0, Motherwell 0, Inverness Cali Thistle 3. Of course, we've discussed the Rangers game, and Ross County 0, Celtic 4. Paul Hartley under pressure as well. Isn't it amazing, Stephen, how everybody, every game by game now, the intense pressure of Paul Hartley suddenly finding Dundee bottom of the league?
Yeah, I think so. I think especially all the clubs are so close together. You lose 2 or 3 on the bounce, you're down there, you're in the relegation zone. But it's the same way. If he wins the next 2 or 3 games, then what a great job he's doing. I think it's so small margins, especially in this league, that I think a couple of wins does so much difference. Yeah,
absolutely. And the manager, Paul Hartley, admits they're bang in trouble.
I mean, I'm not getting away from that. I've said that since the last couple of weeks that we're in trouble, and our points tally's not good enough, and we're in a battle just now, and we have to find a way to try and get out of it.
Are you feeling under more pressure now?
I think when you lose games, then you've got to feel pressure. I think we've all got to take responsibility in terms of myself and staff and the players.
Still can't help but look at the 2 strikers, the amount of goals. I mean, if Queen of the South lost Stephen Dobbie and Derek Lyle, suddenly you'd start to hit the panic button wondering where the goals were going to come from.
Yeah, well, I think as far as Dundee's concerned, you hope that the owners have got a bit of common sense about them. They were the ones who sold the 2 strikers. You know, you would like to think they would give Paul time to get it right. You know, they're part of this as well. It's not just Paul and the players. You know, they've made decisions. Obviously, James McPake's been out for a while, which is a big loss as well. So if you could get him back and maybe another couple of players in the January window, it would help. But it's up to the owners who have put him in that position by selling his top 2 strikers.
Yeah, and as Stephen mentioned there, it's amazing. Couple of results. You know, look at Alan Archibald, can't hold on to a lead. Suddenly they get a 2-0 win.
Yeah, that's the way the league is when you're down the bottom there. It's so close. That's why we've said when we talk about teams going on a run is possibly just winning 2 games, getting 6 points, and then you're possibly in the top 6, and that's the way that league is just now.
Yeah. The one thing that I think everybody accepts, Stephen, is stopping Celtic is going to be a different proposition under Brendan Rodgers than it was under Ronnie Dyler.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, working with Brendan, he's so, from the minute you come in on that Monday morning, it's nothing else matters but winning that game on a Saturday. And the signings he's made, Scott Sinclair and Dembele, are scoring every game and setting it on fire. So yeah, it's going to be tough to stop them, but that's what the other teams are there for. Yeah,
but you worked with Brendan at Swansea. What's he like as a manager?
He's great. He's football just every minute. I think he got an injury and he had to retire very early. So on his coaching point, he started very early, and I think he went away and learned Spanish and just little things like that helped him when he was at Swansea with all the Spanish players, and it made a difference. So I think he's doing unbelievable.
Yeah, and as an individual, Craig Beattie was in. He talked about the fact that on a one-to-one basis he has that special quality as well. Which management's not just about organising somebody in a tactical sense. There's much more to it.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, when I was at Swansea, we were in like a local gym thing, and obviously all my family's Scottish, and he's a bit of Scottish in him, so he'd always make a point to always make them feel welcome, and I think that then transcended onto the players who really wanted to play for him because they could see what kind of man he was.
Yeah, of course it's a big game at the weekend, Aberdeen against Celtic. The Dons have to find a way to stop them, and Derek McInnes has accepted it's going to be a battle on Saturday.
Just roll over and accept it. I think that you see a lot of teams in leagues across Europe who are seen as a dominant team. There's normally 1 or 2 that are really dominant, and from early stages in the season they're detached from the rest of the league, and we feel a bit of pride that we've managed to put up some sort of fight with them in the last couple of years, and our team and other teams this season I think will feel that we've got to try and fight even harder to try and stay close with them. But I think Celtic at the minute and it's still early on and a lot can happen. But certainly at the minute they do look like a team who aren't going to drop as many points as they've maybe done in the previous couple of years. So I don't see it as disheartening, but I think it's something that it's a bigger challenge for us, and we've got to try and take that challenge on rather than just accept it.
Ruffy, 7 points ahead, a game in hand. If they win at Pittodrie on Saturday, does that just demoralise everyone briefly?
Yeah, I think so. I think demoralising was last night to leave 8 first-team players out and go up to Ross County and win 4-0. It just shows you how far ahead they are.
Yep. Okay, after the break, we're going to chat to Stephen about Queen of the South and, of course, his ambitions in the twilight of his career. I'm sure he'll forgive me for that. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's football show. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Our bootroom guest, I'm delighted to say, is Queen of the South striker Stephen Dobbie. Just a couple of things before we move on to the Queens. Ruffy, you're a goalkeeper. Of the matches last night, we talked about Celtic. Craig Gordon, it would be remiss of me not to mention the fact that he's managed to get away with what I can only describe as 2 assaults.
Yeah,
one of them last night against Ross County.
Yeah, I think last night obviously he's not read the situation and he's came out and realised it. I think in all fairness to him, he hasn't followed through on the striker. He's sort of put his knee up and sort of held back on it. It's not a goal scoring opportunity. He's gone away. These are the things that the referee take into account, but he really does to have a look at himself, and it's obviously something he has to work on, because if that had possibly been a European game, sometimes they react a wee bit more hasty in that.
Oh, so. Ruffy, come on.
It's not sending off.
It's a red card.
Not for me.
It's a red card. He's only outside the box the way he was against Alloa.
Yeah, it was the exact same.
It's a red card.
Not for me. If he'd followed through and taken the player out, yeah.
Well, wait a minute. He took the player out.
That's because the player banged into him.
Okay, Stephen, save me. It's a red card.
Goalkeepers union, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it. Absolutely. If it was me, I'm looking for a red card because I'm going through and maybe tapping the ball in, but I think as Ruffy says, he did sort of pull out, even though his knee was at his head.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so just bear that in mind if you're playing football. If you're coming crashing in and someone, just pull out a wee bit at the last minute, and Ruffy will back you on it. Anyway, he got a yellow card. Other than that, he's fine. One other little thing: the results, Ruffy. Motherwell just couldn't defend set pieces. The first 2 goals were down to that. The Motherwell fans not too happy about it, but that's a blow for Mark McGee's team.
Is there another team, who really have to win their home games? We had big Steve McManus in telling us about the young players who are breaking through and they're getting a chance, and that might be where they're suffering a wee bit, no inexperience. I think Mark's got 2 or 3 of them in there, but you can't defend the goals they lost. I mean, one of them was an absolute shambles, and that'll be something he'll be having to work on for the next one. Yeah,
let's have a look at the Premiership table just to give you an insight into how it's all shaping up. Of course, there's Dundee at the bottom. Motherwell just 3 points ahead of them, but they've got a game in hand. I think Paul Hartley's got a real battle on his hands there, but as Derek McInnes and Mark Warburton have highlighted, early days, but at the top end, 9, 10, 11 games played for some teams. Celtic have a chance to go 10 points clear if they can win at Pittodrie on Saturday, and it really would be a blow this early on in the season. It would be a battle for the rest in 2nd, 3rd and 4th. You can give us your view on it at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and Facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. Let's switch our attention to the Championship. Stephen, it was a surprise for me that you opted for Queen of the South. I think a few other teams would have loved to have had you in their ranks. What was the attraction to go back there?
I think they always say don't go back, but when you have a good experience, I think I've been to Blackpool 3 times, 4 times, I kept going back, because when you get that feeling and you're playing under the fans and you get a bit of love from them and a bit of success. We got to the Scottish Cup final last time, narrowly we beat off Rangers, and then we were first team of Queen South in Europe. And I always said I would come back, and the time was just right to to go and try and do my help with my coaching and that as well, and getting into that.
Yeah, I've looked at your career, and boy, you've played under some really good managers. We discussed Brendan Rodgers, you had excuse me, Ian Holloway, and of course you've had some really big games. You mentioned the Scottish Cup final. Playoffs must have been magnificent.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, obviously the first one, Blackpool were tipped to go down that season. We ended up winning at Wembley. Charlie scores a great free kick in that game, and you think, oh great, I've been at Wembley, that's been brilliant, and then it ends up happening the next year again, and then the next year again, and it's been from where I was at Dumbarton to say that I'd be playing at Wembley and scoring in front of 90,000 it would have been a dream, and it came true.
Yeah, would you have liked to have had a sustained period in the Premier League?
Definitely. I mean, I think when the fixtures came out, I was on holiday, and we ended up drawing Man City in the first game. So I was like, right, better get out the pool and go straight to the gym. But that's when it becomes reality that you know you're going to be playing against these players. And I would have liked to play more games, but if you told me, as I said when I was at Dumbarton, that I would be playing against Man City, Man United, even for the 10 or 12 games that I played, I would have butt your hand off for it.
Yeah, what's the difference? You know, we always talk about, it's not so much we've got an inferiority complex in the north, but we're more realistic about where we are nowadays. What's the difference from the level you were playing at down there, the players, and what you've sampled up here?
I don't think there is much a difference. I mean, the players down there, when I went from Queen of the South, I was going from League One, as it was, Division 1, to the Championship in England, so it was a big step. And I think I was lucky that when I went there, they played quite football, and that was sort of my game. And so I quite settled quite quick. But I wouldn't say there's much difference. You're seeing players coming from England now to Scotland, so I think that's Scotland isn't that far away.
Yeah, and as far as from your own personal point of view, I mean, what are the ambitions? I mean, Ruffy and myself on a Saturday afternoon with Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny are now in a situation where we're saying, okay, Queen of the South, the goal's either Derek Lyle or Stephen Dobbie, and boy, you've got a good partner there. He knows his way to goal, Derek.
Yeah. I didn't know Derek before I went there, and we've struck up a little partnership, and as I said to you earlier, combined age of 75 up front on a Saturday, but we play well together, and it's more our minds, what we've learned in my career, and there's a good breed of young players coming through there as well. So that's, if we can pass on to them, then it's helping the whole club. Yeah,
and with that in mind, are you disappointed the way the last few weeks have been? Because I was looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, 7 straight wins and then suddenly 1 win in 6.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've lost a few of the older boys. Derek's been injured, Jamie Hamill, Dale Hilson. So it's kind of, we've lost a few, but the young boys have come in and done well, and I think it just caught up in us a wee bit, because we had a great start, and I think all the fans were thinking, oh, this could be a great season. But we're still there, we're 3 points behind, and we've got a good chance.
Yeah, Ruffy, it certainly surprised us. If you have a look at the Championship table, you know, we've suggested Hibs would run away with it, but suddenly, you know, Queen of the South, Dundee United, all within striking distance.
Yeah, I think, well, we all think Hibs are going to, I don't think they'll run away with it, I think they'll win it, but I think the playoff positions this year again are going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be really exciting. I think Queen of the South will be in it this year, obviously. They've got to maintain, you know, winning the games, but I think Falkirk, Queen of the South, and Wraith Rovers, as you say, will be there a bit. I think it's going to be a great fight to get into that top 4.
Yeah, just on that point, Stephen, is the next 2 games, you've got Wraith, then you've got Dundee United. Is that really a measure of, you know, whether you have got what it takes to be in the mix?
I think so, but as I said, it's early days. We played what, 8 games, and we didn't lose any games, and then all of a sudden you lose a few games and people start to doubt you. But then, as Ruffy said, then Hibs were tipped as favourites, and we're only 3 behind them. We played them twice, beat them once, drew the other one. So I think, especially in this league, it's who turns up in the day.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Just before we go, Ruffy, again, never a day goes by without a story coming out about changes in the division. Stuart Regan has been chatting and discussing the possibility of cross-border leagues. I think this is another avenue to try and work out how the clubs out with the big clubs can get extra revenue.
Yeah, I'm surprised every time this one comes up. You know, every time somebody mentions it, there's always another 10 people who knock it in the head. I would like to see somebody really sitting down and really thinking about it before they bring it up.
Yeah.
They have people who they're talking about are agreeing with them, because as soon as we bring it up, somebody says no chance.
I think the suggestion now is for clubs who have been knocked out of Europe earlier. Suddenly you've got 5 or 6, 7 or 8 countries who all get involved in another kind of tournament that runs alongside your league campaign.
And when do we fit this one in? You know, when do we play it? You know, we've already got people complaining because, you know, they're not getting enough, are not getting enough games, competitive games. So I wish when something like this would come up, we have everybody all with a set plan of what's going to happen, and we'll go, well, that looks quite good, that. But every time we hear about it, we just keep picking bones at it.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, for our point of view, it always feels a good minute of talking before somebody kicks it right into touch, Ruffy.
I'm just absolutely stunned that Stevie's 45.
Yeah, we're going to run that as our competition. Who's the older between Stephen Dobbie and Derek Lyle? I'm sure Derek Lyle's family will be on the case. We wish you the very best for the rest of the season. From Stephen, from Ruffy and myself, Peter. Thanks for watching. Good night.